One of the elements that I took a lot of pride in when I was a player was the perimeter game, offensively and defensively. To me, it is the first line of breakdown in either your defense or your offense ability or front court skill. There are two main reasons why we become unsuccessful in the perimeter. One is our perimeter awareness, what is going on around us. Two is our poor body position with our hips down, being taken advantage of on the perimeter, on drives, on releases. If we control these two elements in the game, in the perimeter game, our life will become a lot easier and we will start dominating our opponent. Let's get out there and become the best perimeter defender in the game. The standard absorbs shoulder control, maintaining control of your offensive player when he has the ball. As you can see here, both players are controlling themselves with their offhand, their near side hand, trying to control the offensive player or the defensive player. Controlling with that offhand allows you to maintain position. In this drill, you'll see the defensive player with his hand, his right hand is on top of the left shoulder when the player has the ball in his hand. This allows leverage on top of the offensive player, making him work harder. Once the offensive player releases the ball, you'll notice the defensive player throws both his hands up to not allow a foul to occur. Once that offensive player goes back to maintaining or controlling the ball, the defense is there again to put pressure on that leading shoulder to push him down. If the defense needs to grab that shoulder and control the throwing arm, he's able to do that with his breaststroke kick in a horizontal position. On the underwater camera, you're going to notice the defender is in a horizontal or 45-degree angle in the water. This allows him to have leverage to breaststroke kick out on the offensive player when needed or protect his hips from being grabbed. This is a very important key to this. The offensive player cannot grab your hips on the defensive end. The above water camera will show a great illustration of both players controlling each other with that arm control. Notice how the defensive player is trying to maintain that control with his forearm and a little bit less with his hands, but he can use the hands when needed. So notice here at the forward position as the offensive player is trying to get a ball release. The defensive player is absorbing that foul, that movement from him, and staying and maintaining on top of him. That way he can foul and drop and protect. Great job by X4 defender, keeping his hips up and his legs going. Notice also his hands are up. He's not committing a kick out or holding or grabbing him, but he's keeping his hands free so able to foul, go back and deny and protect set. Great job by X4. Watch X2 and X4 how they engage in their offensive player. They go straight to that leading shoulder and control their shoulder, which controls the body of the offensive player. It's a great job by X2 and X4. Again, you can see the shoulder control by the X2 position. This is protecting the defensive player's body. If you go straight and put your whole body on top of that player can turn you now. But here, they're protecting themselves. That way they don't get gross and goat. Slip move. This is great for a defender who sees an offensive player in a relaxed state. If you can breaststroke kick and slip move to his inside, hit that elbow, and get control of that ball, you've done a great job. Now if you notice here, when you're doing this slip move and you're breaststroke kicking in the inside of his body, your right hand that's on top of his shoulder, controlling the shoulder, lifts up to show the referee that you're not committing a foul, or you're not holding or pulling him back. Here you see a great slip move by X5. The X5 player is not playing so much in the lanes, but he's anticipating that pass from the 4 guy. And he big breaststroke kicks pass and a nice slip move to steal the ball and go on a counterattack. Foul and deny drill. The defensive player is fouling the offensive player to protect set or their area around them. Their awareness of the game is one step ahead by knowing that he needs to foul, come back over his hips in a denying position to not allow the offensive player to make that next pass to their advantage. You notice here the defensive player lunges forward with a big breaststroke kick, hitting the elbow of the offensive player committing the foul. The defensive player rotates over his hips after committing the foul in a 45-degree angle. He has that split egg beater. One leg's underneath him, one leg's up out. Once he's in the denial, you'll notice his leading hand or his mirroring hand is up, taking away a shooting lane or a passing lane to set. His other arm is sculling hard to elevate his body out of the water. Now this hand also can be used to pull or scull to elevate to steal the ball if the ball is going to set. When you see the split egg beater underwater, this allows the defense to react to a pass to set with a big breaststroke kick because his leg's in that position to push him that way, to steal the ball at a set. The foul-to-foul drill is very similar to the foul and denial. He's adding one more component going back out on the offensive player to commit another foul. This is when the offensive player gets a right back drill after a foul. You want to be in control. You don't want this offensive player to have a live entry or attack the cage in a zone. You want to put him on his back. In this drill, you'll notice when your defensive player is in that denial state, he rotates back over his hips, keeping his hips close to his body, not going into direct vertical, but keeping his hips close to his body, rotating over, and finishing with a big breaststroke kick, knocking the player down and fouling the player again. What indicates the difference between a foul and denial and a foul to foul is when the player passes it to his partner to get it right back. As soon as the ball leaves his hand, that's when you're coming back over your hips to foul him again. Foul the crash. In the foul the crash drill, you notice the 2-meter man has gained position on your triangle and you need to foul and protect. So you're fouling your opponent, coming back over your hips and immediately committing to the 2-meter man. In this drill, you'll notice as soon as he fouls, he goes to a breaststroke kick back over his hips and he goes to a swim pattern. As soon as he gets close to the 2 meters, he goes to a lunge knockdown, trying to get that ball with a trailing hand to get the pass. That trailing hand is crucial. One hand is going to the ball, the other one is coming back over his head to try to tip the ball at the last second. You cannot do this trailing hand without a breaststroke kick keeping your body above the water. A lot of players make the mistake of trying to steal the ball right here. Don't commit to the steal. Get back and crash hard to the 2 meters. The less time you give the 2-meter man, the better your option is with not getting your 2-meter defender kicked out. Here you see at X2 have a great shoulder control of the offensive player. His body's in a 45-degree angle. His vision of the pool is great because he's looking behind him to see if he needs to foul and help and deny and protect set. A foul to lunge KO, very similar to foul to foul. The lunge KO at the very end is more of a breaststroke kick with your arms in a shot blocking position, but yet your intent is to knock down. Do not give that shooter the opportunity to shoot the ball. You're rotating over your hips are staying close to the surface of the water into your chest area, and you're using that as a spring to a breaststroke kick to get out on your guy. This is a very crucial movement in the defense. You can use this in many aspects, your 5 men, your front court, your splitting, your zones. This big over your hips motion with the breaststroke kick allows the offensive player to have less time to react. In the underwater camera, you're going to notice going over their hips. The player is going from a foul position, going back over his hips here to a breaststroke kick, and then reacting to the pass going back to your offensive player. You can see how the hips have to get back underneath him to allow him to breaststroke kick out on his player. Here you see the X5 position. Absorb the lunge. What I mean by is absorb the push off from the offensive player, but his hips are up in a position where he can lunge back out on that offensive player, commit a foul, and protect his 2 meters. He would not be able to do this if he was in the vertical, but because he was in the horizontal, he absorbed the movement from the offensive player, which allowed him to get back out on him and cause a foul. Here you see X4, defensive player in a nice KO lunge as he's coming out, putting pressure on the guy at 4, not allowing him to shoot the ball. Here you see a split from the X3 position going to the 4 guy because the 4 guy is moving in his area. Check how powerful and explosive this lunge KO is. The head in, feet out drills are great to use in any type of defense with a zone. This is when your head is in towards the center of the pool or the 2-meter position and your legs are facing where you want to go. This allows you to step over your legs and gaining ground in your offensive player. So many times a defensive player is swimming out to the guy, which takes less time as well as less pressure. With this big lunge and up and over your hips, it allows the breaststroke kick to get you there quicker and more explosive. The above water camera should illustrate this the best with the opposite hand, or the hand that's in the water. you'll see him lead with that hand and step out in front of him to lead in the direction that he wants to go. Now, the underwater cameras, you're going to see the body in a horizontal position prior to the drill starting. You'll notice the defender steps over his legs. His upper body goes to his legs, not his legs drop underneath his lower body. This allows him to gain ground on that offensive player, to put more pressure and less time for him to think. The last and probably the most important thing is putting the player down. You don't want to put your player down with your shot blocking hand. Keep that up. Once you drop that hand, the offensive player can shoot over you. Keep that field blocking hand up and hit him with the leading hand, the hand that's working hard for you underwater. So a lunge KO, just like in our foul to lunge KO, is when we're a little bit closer distance to our defender. And all we need is one big lunge over our head in, feet out. And our goal is to hit that throwing arm. Don't just hit the body. Big, strong players can absorb a hit on the body and still get a shot off. Your job is to hit with that leading hand, hit that elbow, that way you can disrupt the shot. And at the same time, your field blocking hand is taking your side of the cage. Again, I want to point out the upper body moving to and over the legs, not the legs dropping down in the vertical. This is very important. This makes you and allows you to get out to that offensive player quicker and get a hold of him. Here you see the X3 player do a phenomenal job of lunge KO, moving out over his hips, putting him underwater. Notice one hand is knocking the ball down while the other is shot blocking. Crossover steal is a great time to use late in the game when you need the ball back in your possession. The crossover steal is when the player is in the vertical and he's paying attention or trying to slow the game down and maintaining control of the ball. The best way for a crossover steal is to fake that you're going to put both hands up, and at the last second, your inside hand is going to go across his lower back or mid back, pulling him into you, and with your outside hand going across his body with a big breaststroke kick, touching that ball or reaching for that ball. Notice here, put a little pressure on his shoulder. When you put pressure on his shoulder, the offensive player has a tendency to drop down and try to get a quick foul. When you notice him going underwater, lift both hands up at the last second, and you'll see how this defender, as soon as his hands come up, he reaches up and around and reaches for that ball with a big breaststroke kick. Notice that the player is showing his hands and the offensive player is faking a call or looking for a call. As the player looks for the call, he buries his head and the defensive player wraps and grabs up and over him with a big breaststroke kick, moving the offensive player a little bit to the side as he reaches for the ball. This is a great steal. Now, the crossover steal in the horizontal position is when a player is releasing for the ball in a horizontal swim, or the two-stroke release that we worked on earlier. And in this position, the defensive player is going to sit back and wait for that pass and anticipate that pass. Now, the offensive player's hips are right in front of him. So with that inside hand, he can stroke over those hips and reach for the ball over the defender. That swim stroke looks like a normal swim stroke. It doesn't look like he's coming across or pulling him or dragging him underwater. This is a very disguised steal, and it works often in games. The underwater camera shows that hand from the defender going on top of the hips and pulling himself across to make that steal. In your defensive perimeter game, I can't reiterate how important it is to learn to control your offensive player. Play a chess game with them by keeping your hips up, protecting your body, not being grabbed, as well as being able to move in and out, rotating over your hips. It's extremely important that you really utilize your breaststroke kick more than your egg beater. This is a more powerful, explosive, and quick opportunity to knock down somebody on the perimeter game.